Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Keeping It Real with Najee Wilkins. Sorry for the delay, dealing with a little bit of a technical issue. I think my AirPods are messing up, so we do apologize, but we're not going to waste any more time. Jam-packed show. We're going to be revealing Cherokee interview I had earlier today with their head coach as they contend for a 7A state basketball title. But right now, I want to get into it with North Atlanta running backs coach Bryce Doe, and then we'll conclude the show with my top 10 headlines. So without further ado, let's bring on the running back coach for North Atlanta. Hey, Coach, thanks for being patient with me. I'm so sorry. Technical difficulties. Our audio's been going in and out. But how you doing today, Coach?
Man, I'm doing great. No worries about audio. It's just a pleasure to be here, and I'm glad you're having me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And Coach, you guys had a phenomenal season last year. Best finish in school history. Playoff berth. Just what allowed that North Atlanta team kind of to take that jump forward?
Man, it's like our head coach Jamie All says, it's a brick by brick kind of thing that starts in January and goes all throughout the year. So it was just that commitment with the guys being together every day in the weight room. And we start at 6 a.m. in the morning. So you really have to be committed just to get there and to put in the work. So we just had a good group of guys led by our seniors that, just really kept the focus on being together and getting better every day throughout the course of the year, not just the football season.
Certainly, and then you guys took a big step forward last year as far as the running game. It really clicked last year. Obviously, Trey Lennon was a big part of that. Your running back Hunter Davis was a big part of that as well. But just what allowed it overall to click?
Yeah, the Trey Lennons of the world and Hunter Davis, they get a lot of the credit because they're the guys who's toting the football. But it really begins and ends in the trenches with our offensive line. Uh, we had a developing offensive line this year, actually, but Coach All, our offensive line coach Jeremy Gaynor, just the way they locked in and really believed in those kids because we had some kids who had never played at the varsity level um, out there. We had some bright kids to work with, and that was the success right there, just building that unit. And I want to say we were six deep. Uh, Michael Bell and Caleb Ash, who's a really talented junior this year, but is going to be a star Division I type football player. But he had to kind of learn his way through the varsity level, and just that unit of guys right there gave us a lot of push. So Trey could be Trey, and Hunter could be Hunter, and the other guys we had in the backfield. A lot of times with us, a different person may run the ball on different plays, but it's a lot of the same plays up front for us what the offensive line is doing. And Coach All and Coach Gaynor got that continuity built with that offensive line group.
And you brought up a great point, Coach. Obviously, you got it. It starts in the trenches. So, what's your kind of relationship with the offensive line, Coach? Obviously, that all has to culminate together for it to be an effective run game. You got to have, the offensive lineman creating holes for the running back, and you got to be constant communication between you and him. So, just what's that relationship like with you and the offensive line coach, and obviously Coach Ole, and just culminating that everything together so you get that success on the field?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because it was a different but great year for us as far as building our chemistry together. Coach All has been the offensive line coach here since before he was the head coach. Things kind of changed a little bit this year with him kind of getting out of the offensive line role and trusting our offensive line coach Jeremy Gaynor. And me and Coach Gaynor would like to get together, of course, every day. Each position on a football team has some everyday essential drills and footwork type things that they want to do. But Coach Gaynor and the offensive line and myself with the running backs, we're able to get together like halfway through our individual periods and start working on running things together, getting a clean look, a clean feel at those plays. So when we got a gap scheme play where we got guys on the play side blocking down and backside guys pulling over, it's good to see that and get a good visual against bags or against guys not going that hard on the scout team before we get to the actual team portion of the practice. So that's our kind of daily routine. We're going to spend some time apart working on what we need to work on individually, but we're a unit. We call it the run game unit, and that's what we break it down on. O-line and running backs, we get together daily.
Yes, sir. And what's kind of the process without obviously looking too far ahead? We'll get into the spring game and the practices and how that works. Someone know like how it works for North Atlanta, but
Mhm.
How does it look next year? Obviously, you're going to lose Trey Lennon. He's going to graduate. You're going to lose Hunter Davis. He's going to graduate. But who are some of the young guys that are going to step up as far as that running game? And can we see kind of expect the same kind of read option, or will you guys switch it up with kind of maybe a new start at the helm in Ian Reynolds or someone else?
Long as the big guy's the head coach, the system's not going to change. We're going to run some gap scheme, and we're going to run a lot of gap scheme. We're also going to run some zone stuff, and we're going to run our quarterback. That's just what we do here in North Atlanta. So we feel real good about Ian Reynolds. Ian Reynolds played a lot last year as a sophomore, so he was actually able to compete with Trey and push Trey in a lot of games for playing time to get on the field. So he comes this year as an experienced junior, somebody who played, in most of the games last year. And the thing about Ian, he's more of a natural passer as opposed to Trey. But Ian does what he has to do on the ground as well. If you look back at our scrimmage game from the beginning of the season last year, Ian broke away for about a 50, 60-yard touchdown on Westminster. He's that kind of athlete. He's a multi-sport athlete that's playing baseball right now. Uh, in the backfield, we got a couple guys that I'm looking at right now. We'll start with number 6 from last year who played in the slot. That is Caden Hambrick. And that's a kid going into his senior year that has gotten a lot of playing time in the slot position and in the backfield. So feel real good about with him. Demetrius Barnes got a lot of playing time last year at the running back position. He's having an awesome, awesome offseason. And that was a struggle in the past where we couldn't get him in the weight room every day. And this year he's just determined, haven't missed a day of weights. He's on time every day. So, I mean, we're just excited about the up and comers. That's why we coach football and we love it. It's about
Yep.
that next group that's coming up.
Certainly is, coach, and that's the most exciting thing because you sometimes you come into the season or coming into the offseason, you don't know what they're going to bring. You don't know what jump they're going to have in the offseason coming into the season. So it's always exciting to have kind of that new group come in and see what their full potential could possibly even be. But walk me through, coach, what's kind of the offseason like for you in your role, obviously being the running backs coach? Obviously, I know it's the weights first and things like that, but what are some other things that you have to do on a daily just to make sure you're prepared going into spring and then obviously eventually into the season?
Yes, good question. Things are a tad bit different for me than the other football coaches on staff during this off season. It's never off season for Coach Doe. I'm the head boys and girls track and field coach,
Wow.
and we're one of the better teams in the state, one of the fastest teams in the state. So ever since the last football game, I was on the track that next Monday. So my day looks like 6 a.m. weights. I'm an autism teacher, so I teach my special ed class, and then I'm right to the track. So it's a lot of 14-hour days, it feels like, this time of the year. But, I mean, that's the grind, and that's why I love it. I like to see the kids produce. We got a lot of our football players. One in particular I can think of is like a Darius Malcolm, who was our starting cornerback last year, returning for his senior season. He's doing an awesome job on our track team right now, and as a part of that 4x1 relay team, that's one of the top 3 in the state.
Wow. Yeah, I was just about to ask you that, coach. That leads into my next question. Do you encourage some of those players that play even on the opposite side of the ball, the corners, the safeties, even some of your big guys, do you encourage them to run track just to constantly stay fit and play that second sport so that they're already well conditioned before, you even get into football?
Absolutely, it's a big thing and a major focus of our overall football team. The defensive coaches, the head coach, does a good job about speaking on putting my messages in the football team message group, so they know the information about track and field. So yes, our offensive linemen, our best offensive linemen are out there throwing the ball at a distance. We got several kids that on the defensive side of the football, like a Grant Thompson, Darius Malcolm, and others that are participating in track and field and doing a good job. You're seeing those numbers come down weekly. So it's a constant focus. And the thing about those guys, I talked about how my day is. Well, it's even tougher for those guys because they're actually doing those Monday squat workouts, and then that's also going to be the toughest day of the week on the track on Monday.
Yeah, yeah, you're just getting them right though. I mean, obviously you're putting them through it now, and then in the season it's gonna be like nothing or during the off season. So, definitely training them the right way. But another question, coach, just for you, what kind of expectation do you generally have, or does it change from group to group of just the running back and the production that you expect them to have each season? Does it change with new groups coming in, or just does it stay the same?
It can change. I can think of my first year here at North Atlanta. We had a very talented running back, TK Mack. He was a 2,000-yard running back. So a lot of times when you're calling the power play, you're gonna call it for TK. You don't have to send your quarterback to run in there in the trenches like that too often when you got a TK Mack in the backfield. And that was a very, very high level football player. You're not going to be able to count on having a TK Mack year in, year out, but it's just the beauty of our offense. We can call that power play for the quarterback, the running back, and it's some multiple different options that we have on those plays. Obviously, when you got a quarterback that can throw it and run it the way a Trey Lennon does, a lot of times we're gonna call that play for Trey. Sometimes we're not even reading it when Trey is your quarterback. We just got the dummy jet motion coming by, and
Yep.
then we know Trey will slam that ball downhill. Um, I would probably think this year with more of a passer at quarterback, we're gonna be a little bit more protective of him. We feel good about the guys we got in the backfield, so we're gonna turn those loose and get the yards where we can with the quarterback. So it does change year to year, but we have a very diverse offense.
Definitely. And then you mentioned having Mac, and those don't grow on trees, so you got to definitely take advantage when you have them. But talk to me, Coach. How do you evaluate the running back position? The game is changing, right? You got Mill Creek and
Yeah.
7A. They use a little bit of analytics, as far as their offense and how it goes. But for you, do you watch a lot of film? Do you use analytics to kind of go and how you evaluate the position? Or do you just go with your naked eye? It's like, I know how to evaluate the talent. This guy here, he's just something different. I want him to be a good bit part of my running game. Like, how does that work for you?
Yeah. I'm dialed in on the film. It's my job and my responsibility to break down the defensive box for every team, every opponent that we face. So some things can kind of change week to week versus if we're going against a three-man front or four-man front. Does this team have their talent on the interior, on the exterior, so we can pick our spots? Um, Coach All does a good job of game planning though, and making sure the right guys getting the ball in the right positions to be successful. I would think. Obviously, sometimes we got a big, deep, nice defensive end like they had at New Manchester this year. You think you might want to run away from a guy like that, but like this year, the game plan was no, we want to run right at him
Yep.
and block him down, get more bodies on him. Yeah, so that's where we at with it.
That's a good point. I mean, you see that a lot too. I seen that in just as a reference to the Eagles and Cowboys rivalry. I just remember like they run a lot of the read option, and you would think,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, let's run away from that guy. But sometimes that guy like that can have so much speed they can still get there and disrupt the play. But then you're like, okay, let's go
Exactly.
block him, get bodies to him, and then making him uncomfortable, run at him, and then it takes kind of that pressure off, and then you can open up lanes, and then you open up more of the passing game too. So I think that's a good point.
Yeah. We overloaded that side and we reached blocked them all night with too many people for him to fight through. And like I say, Coach All, I mean, I call him Big Brain. I like to tease with him because he just always got a recipe. He always got a plan. And when he finds something good, you're gonna have to show him you can stop it before he come out of it.
Definitely, coach. And then for you, back to the running game in the boxes, right? So obviously, if they're low in the box, you're more prone to kind of pass the football. But in that situation, you believing in your running backs, having great running backs that you've had in that North Atlanta program, do you run away from that? Do you more so, okay, hey, let's predicate more onto the passing game, or do I more so, I believe in what we could do. I believe in the offensive line, despite sometimes the box maybe being overloaded with 8, maybe 9 man fronts.
Football is a numbers game, and we're always gonna go to the numbers wherever we can get an advantage.
Yep.
And of course, this new generation of football we got, you also got the RPO game to make the defense think about and worry about. So there are different ways to run against a loaded box. Maybe, like I say, we're putting that ball into the stomach of the running back against that loaded box, and those linebackers are coming up. And there we go. We got a slant pass right by the ear of the linebacker. Obviously, if they heavy on the interior, they got
Yep.
less numbers on the exterior. So it's telling us the defense is telling us to run the football to the outside. You always want to be smart in football. You don't want to be so macho that you just always bumping heads against the wall. We're gonna go where the numbers take us.
Yes, sir. Definitely. And when does spring practice start for you guys? When is the kind of the training go into that, and then when is the spring game, and who you guys got on the docket, or are you guys just kind of scrimmaging each other?
I'm trying to look at this information as you're asking the question. Looks like, well, we definitely have our spring game on 5/8, 5/18. I
5/18.
get lost because I'm the track and field coach, of course, and I'm at the state championship the first week that we start, the first
Yep.
week of May, I believe, and I won't be there. Some of our faster guys won't be there that first week, but then that second week of spring ball, I'll be out there with all the speed guys coming along with me after we finish winning this state championship. Uh, a great game we got on tap with the Arabia Mountain Rams. The head coach at Arabia Mountain, Coach Washington, was on our defensive staff here my first year 4 years ago. So a good little friendly battle right there that we'll be happy to have Coach Washington back up here on our heel. Um, yeah, last year we had a live quarterback, so we was able to see some things. Like I said, we like to run our quarterback, so to see what he got, we're gonna have to probably let them be able to put some pads on him if they can.
I hear you on that. You definitely want to evaluate it early so you know kind of what you got going into the obviously after spring, the off season, and getting ready for the season. So one more question, coach, and I'll let you go. I know you're busy. Just how do you guys build on and including the running game, because that is a big facet of the offense, and obviously it starts with the trenches, but that's a big part of that North Atlanta team. Obviously next year will be a little different. You're going to have more of a passer with Ian Reynolds, but how does North Atlanta take that next big step next year, win a playoff game, even have a better season than they had the previous year?
Oh yeah, yeah. Football, like I said, you said it as well. Is one in the trenches, and the guys are doing their thing right now in the weight room. That is the development for us right now. We pumping that protein every day and pumping that iron. So we'll be in the weight room throughout the summer. We'll be building chemistry with our O line groups and our running back groups working together in our contact camps. Those contact camps are a big part of development of a football team over the course of the summer. That's the only time you can actually put pads on each other. So we'll be going to Grayson. Uh, I can't tell you exactly what week that is, but I'm pretty sure we're going to Grayson in June. We like to go out to Fayette County for the camp that they have. It's really been a great contact camp for us. So just trying to stay physical when we can throughout the summer, and that's what we're gonna build that chemistry together in the fall.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm excited to watch you guys once again this year. You guys will be featured in our Cookie Kill Classic again, so I'll be out there watching you guys on again. And just good luck, coach, as far as the track season goes. Go win state, go Warriors, and I'll definitely be keeping a close eye for that, and obviously into the football season. And thanks for joining the show today.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure anytime. Hey, send me the link so I can watch this back later.
Yes, sir. I'll do that, man. Have a good rest of the day. Thanks, coach.
Thank y'all. Be good.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. So that was Coach Bryce Doe, running backs coach for the North Atlanta Warriors, and the head track coach as well. Again, I thought he brought up some great points, just kind of building into the program. Will be interesting to see if they can build off some of their success from last season. Best start in school history. They started off with a phenomenal win. I should have actually loaded in our clip. That's what I forgot. I should have loaded in the TikTok that went viral. We could thank North Atlanta for this. But Randolph Smith, if you guys haven't seen it, we do have our TikTok label below. So, I mean, obviously, I'll put that in there later because that's already loaded in. But 57K views. That was our most viral clip on our TikTok. Definitely go check us out on that. Score Atlanta on TikTok. But that was the moment you knew their season could be special. They get a walk-off win. Randolph Smith touchdown catch from Trey Lennon. They went 1-0. They beat North Forsyth, who was kind of favored in that game. So, again, an incredible team. Be interested to see next year, as he pointed out some good points. They're going to be coming in, new pieces in there. We're not going to have Hunter Davis anymore. They're going to have Trey Lennon, who run the ball very good. They're going to have some youngsters step up for them next year, and it'll be interesting to see kind of their offensive line was developing last year. They'll have some guys developing more into roles, kind of knowing what they're doing more so this season. So that'll definitely be interesting to see how far they can go and how good that running game will be. Obviously, what you're having more of a traditional passer in Ian Reynolds as compared to Trey Lennon, who runs the read option, very good. But, passes less, but his game is more predicated on the run. So that'll be definitely interesting to see. So that was our first interview. We're going to take a quick short break. Thank our sponsor, Georgia Farm Bureau, and we'll be back on the other side.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are our Farm Bureau.
All right, guys. So we are back on the other side. Lot to talk about. I'm gonna be getting to the state championships from yesterday. Actually, going on right now. Mount Perrin just won the championship, double-digit victory for them. But yes, I'm gonna be breaking down the matchups. What stood out to me while the teams were able to win? Pretty good playoffs yesterday. I'm not gonna lie, or pretty good state championships yesterday. They were all pretty close games, except the last one, Pace Academy and Fayette County. But the rest of them were very close. Kind of came down towards the end. Late runs were the deciding factor. But before we do that, we have a program. They're kind of being slept on a little bit. They were 16-10 last year in the first year under Joel Veman. This year they're 25-6. They're in the state title game. They've beat some really good teams to get here. They've beaten Berkmar. They've beaten Norcross. They went on the road in a very live environment in Carrollton and beat them. So I had an interview with the head coach going into there. He had some really great clips, I think, and really great just insight on the team and letting me know more about kind of the Cherokee Warriors. And the thing that stands out to me before I play the clip, it's about a 12-minute clip, guys. Their togetherness. They play for one another. And a lot of times you see, and I mentioned it in the interview, everything's me, me, me. It's a me, me, me culture. It's a me, me, me society. But things have changed now. I mean, and for them, I like that they had guys take increased roles. Some role players, as he mentioned, the Braylon Gibbons, the Masons of the world. But they accepted the roles. Then their star player, the Tatum Owens, he was taking 20 shots a game last year. This year, he kind of dialed it back some, taking 8 to 10 less shots a game, right? So you got him taking, kind of a back seat, and then he has, Lawrence Stafford, who already has D1 offers coming into his freshman year. He's a six man. So you're seeing these guys buy into what the coach is doing. And like I said, it's hard to do that nowadays, especially when everything is all about me. It's all about my D1 offer. It's all about what I'm doing next. So definitely got to commend what the coach is doing there. It was an incredible interview. Learned a lot more about the Cherokee Warriors. So we're going to play it, and we're going to be back on the other side after the interview's over. For you, coach, the first year you guys go 16-10. This year you're 25-6. You rattled off 6 straight victories to start the season. Just what kind of allowed you to do that? What was kind of that off-season kind of message to your group before the season started? A bunch of seniors this year. Just what were you telling them to kind of get that improvement and get 10 more wins this season and be where you at?
Yeah, man. Year one last year, I think a lot of people didn't think we were going to be very good last year. When I took the job, there was some people that felt like there was going to be a rebuild. The year before I got here, they graduated the all-time leading scorer in school history. Division I kid that went to Siena, and then they also graduated a 6'10" kid, 1,000-point scorer who went to Xavier. So there was a lot of production that had exited the program when I took over. And we had a lot of kids that weren't necessarily playing big minutes, kids that were kind of younger program kids that hadn't got a chance to play at the varsity level very much. So it was some unproven, experienced kids. But when we came in, we felt like we had a way to maybe flip some of the style about how this program had been known. They were typically a program that was a little bit slower. They had size. They had a style that kind of fit their personnel. It was a little bit different than what our personnel was last year. We just were smaller and quicker. And so we tried to take what we felt was our strengths and accentuate it right away. Played really, really well out the gate last year and surprised some people. I think we started the year last year 12-3. At one point had won 9 in a row going into the Christmas break, and we felt like we kind of overachieved right away just from the standpoint of what people had thought. We stumbled in region play last year. When we got into region play, we played in a region that had Milton with Bruce Thornton and Kanan Carlisle. We had a region that had Brandon Rexsteiner in it. And so we went up against some of the best guards in the state last year, and we kind of found ourselves kind of bumping up into some adversity from a scouting point of view. I felt like we got easy to scout last year, and some of our inexperience showed down the stretch. And when we went to Norcross in round 1 last year, we played really well for 3 quarters, and then we just ran out of gas. We just didn't have enough. So when we finished the season, one of the things we immediately started doing was trying to revamp our strength and conditioning. And I got in the weight room with the kids, and we lifted every day, 5 days a week, starting right away. And that really carried us into June. And we felt like going into June, we were going to have a chance to see what we were made of. Played a tough June schedule, played some really good teams in June that are in the state championship this year. We played Pace Academy, we played Lanier, we played several squads that I felt like were going to be a good test for us. We performed really well. Came into fall, felt like our roster was going to have some more experience and some opportunity to really prove we could play at the guard position. But really, what we did more than anything else was we elevated our skill level at positions we didn't have last year. So guys like Braylon Giddens and Mason Bennett and Daston Hart, who were role players last year, we asked them early in June to become something better. We asked them to increase their skill level, increase their ability to take on an aggressive role offensively. We felt like we were a little bit one-dimensional last year. Cameron Pope and Tayton Owens were first-team All-Region last year, but when it came to the end of the season, teams were clearly trying to take them away, and it hurt us. So we asked other guys to increase their game. And credit to Braylon, Mason, and Daston for taking on roles that weren't necessarily comfortable to them. I mean, some of those kids, Braylon and Mason particularly, are two of the most unselfish kids you'll ever meet. It's not in their nature to hunt their shot. But we felt like in order for us to succeed as a team, we needed to expand our team skill set. And they did it from the jump. You'll see across the season this year, on any given night, you might see a different leading scorer for us. And what happened for us this year was it became really hard to scout. It became really difficult to decide who you wanted to defend for us. And the way we move, the way we share the ball, and the team's willingness to kind of sacrifice individual stuff for the sake of the team carried us through early on. You mentioned the 6 wins to start the year. We were dealing with injuries. I mean, Tayton Owens was out. Daston Hart was out. We were playing 5 kids, and we were going up against teams that were pretty good teams, and we had to gut it out, really, from a conditioning standpoint and from a skill level standpoint. But it gave us so much confidence to know we could win with 5 guys, playing some young kids, because it gave Braylon and Mason a chance to shine early in the year and really put that skill level to use. So I'm really happy for the team, just in the sense that the message in June was everybody eats. That was the message. It took a lot of buy-in, and they bought in immediately. And everything we've asked them to do from a team and an individual standpoint, they've done. And it's led to a lot of success this year.
Yes, sir. And to follow that up, you brought up some great points in what you were saying. In the society now, we kind of have just me. It's all about me. But you have unselfish guys that come in taking bigger roles. You have a really well-rounded team, and it gets overlooked because it's like, oh, well, Cherokee, they don't have a star player. But you got a team that buys into the concepts that you want. They buy into, playing for each other. How important do you think that is in this era of me, having that and bringing that into the state championship?
I think it's huge. I think coaching today is really, really difficult because of the society we live in.
Yeah.
And it's hard to blame a kid for feeling that way, because that's all they see and that's all they know. But we work a lot off the floor at trying to make sure that what we do from a program standpoint, and certainly from a coaching staff and a player standpoint, is authentic in our care and genuine care for other people. We work really hard from a program value standpoint to make sure that we're consistent and being genuine for each other. And so it doesn't surprise me that they bought in the sense that we put a lot of work into that off the floor. And this is a group, man, I can't tell you, man, this group has been together going all the way back to like elementary school. So it's not really hard. I mean, it's really hard in today's world when you got kids that maybe are not necessarily connected, but this group has been connected for a long time. They probably weren't as connected on the floor as they have been this year, but they have been connected to each other for a long time, and basketball has been a common experience for them together. So There's a lot of people that had a hand in their connectedness before I came here. There is a lot of people in this community that poured into these kids from an early age that helped develop some good habits regarding their willingness to play with each other. And what we tried to do when I came in was capitalize on that, capitalize on the fact that there were some common foundations there. And what you see this year is the relationship between each kid has come to the forefront on the court. And guys are really happy to be there with each other. They're happy to play for each other. They're happy to see each other succeed.
Get on the team and hold them accountable instead of you always have to do it. Is that kind of disseminating through your team, or is it more so you kind of handling things as far as just getting your guys going? Like, how does that work with the whole senior leadership and having so many seniors on the team?
Well, I mean, I can't tell you about that unless I tell you kind of one of the things that we do in the program. So I'll give you a little bit of insight just in terms of how we set this up last year. But I don't believe in coaches dictating a lot. So when I took the job, one of the commitments I made early on, one of the first things I did was solicit a lot of feedback from the players about what they felt like needed to happen. And then I tried to take that feedback and run it through a filter of what I had experienced as an assistant coach and tried to put together a program that was player-led, but was about the players because I needed to be about the players. And so we started early last year with what we call our Captain's Council. And we had players vote on 4 players on the team that best represented our program values. It wasn't about on-court skill, and it wasn't about what you could produce. It was more about who you were. Last year we had 4 of them. This year, coming into the year, I wrestled a lot with how do you manage a group that has 6 kids who embody the values? Do you limit it to 4, or do you give certain kids more or less? And the decision that we made as a staff was that we needed to capitalize on all 6's ability to lead. Because each of them are different. They have different things that they bring to the table. They have different strengths. Leadership for Braylon looks different than leadership for Mason. And it looks different than leadership from Cam or Daston or Nate or Mason. So what we tried to do early was expand our Captain's Council and actually take it from just a varsity team to a whole program team. And so I gave my 6 seniors a group of kids that carried us from varsity all the way through the 9th grade. And they were responsible and accountable for holding players of each team to the standards. And the criteria to be a captain in our group is you need to be about our values. And our values are real simple. We talk about being a real program, and real is what we use as our acronym. Relationship is first, always. And then enthusiasm, because you got to have some joy and some fun about what you're doing, especially when you play for this long in the season. But the last two is what probably is the most difficult for kids. Kids love relationship and they love to have fun, but the authenticity and the leadership piece is big for us. So we asked our seniors to step up and to be themselves, to be consistently themselves, to understand that that doesn't mean you're perfect, but that you need to be consistent in addressing where you fall short and owning that mistakes. And then we asked you to lead, and you need to lead by example. Those program values have been in place since last year. It took better shape this year because I'm in year 2 instead of year 1. So I knew after year 1 what needed to change and how I could be better. I tell people all the time, year 1, I wasn't a great coach. I made a lot of mistakes in terms of how I coached certain players and what I thought I could get out of kids by doing things a certain way. This year, I felt like I was more secure in being my authentic self with my players. I think they responded to that immediately. I give a lot of freedom to my kids because I trust them, and that trust is built on the relationship that we have. We said from the beginning that I was going to chase them. I was going to chase them on the court and off the court, and that there wasn't going to be no hiding. And these guys, the seniors particularly, don't hide. They don't hide from me. They don't hide from each other. They don't hide from difficult conversation, and they don't hide from uncomfortable stuff. And so what we've tried to really allow is the relational piece in our program to dictate conversation that gives them some agency and some voice. So they get a lot of say, and they understand not to abuse that They understand that I'm not going to allow things to happen that don't meet what we need. But I give pretty much autonomy to that group, all the way down to player discipline. We run
Wow.
all discipline through our captains. I run it all through a filter of what do players think need to happen. Um, and for me, that gives me a lot of freedom because as a player growing up, you never want to feel like you're being punished unnecessarily or unfairly. You want it to be something that you subscribe to, and to have a voice in that, I felt like was important.
All right, y'all. So that was the interview I had with Cherokee's head coach, Joe Vyman. Go check it out on my channel, Sports Talk with Naj. Full interview is there, about 36 minutes or so. But yeah, again, as I mentioned before the interview went on, biggest takeaways was just their togetherness. You may look at them, well, they don't have a star player, they don't have the D1 talent necessarily, but they're a team that buys in, plays together, knows their role, flourishes in their roles, and there's no one man above the team. I think that's something key to point out for Cherokee. So it'll be interesting to see how they come out. They've seen Wheeler 3 times this past season. They were all losses, but they have the familiarity. They know what they like to do. So it'll be interesting to see if they have a plan for some of their players. Obviously, who's going to be the top. It's going to be Isaiah Collier, number 1 player in the country. Then Ayrton Page, Jelani Hamilton, who's a sniper, and then obviously their role players who stepped up big this year too. So certainly will be a tall task for Cherokee, but we'll see if they are ready and prepared coming into that game, and if they can. Pull off one of the biggest upsets, because obviously, as I said, going into this tournament and going into the state title, it is Wheeler's championship to lose. So we'll see if Cherokee will have a lot of fight in them. Certainly will, and they had a big run in big games against some of the top teams. Obviously against Norcross, in the Final Four at Georgia State, getting that win was huge for them. So we'll see, what they have in store and what they're able to do. But we're going to leave that there. Again, the full interview, go to my YouTube page, Sports Talk with Naj. It is there. You can watch the whole interview and what we talked about. But let's talk about and recap some of the action from day one. A lot went on. I'll save Pace Academy game for last. I want to get into some of the better games. I had actually took Charlton County in Class A Division II to beat and upset Wilkinson County, handing their first ever loss in the championship. They moved to 11-0 after a 40-36 win. But the big thing in that game was Elias Williams, who's actually a 4-star tight end according to 247 Sports, 6'7", has some great size. He was just something different on the boards. Neither one of these teams shot the ball well. They didn't start getting a lot of their scoring into the fourth quarter, but I believe he had 21 rebounds in that game, or 20 rebounds in that game. He had 10 points, but he was just a matchup nightmare for Wilkinson County. They didn't really have answers, but the problem in that was that he had a bunch of fouls. So whenever he went out, it was like Charlton County couldn't get any scoring. Despite Jarvis Wright, who was a sophomore, averaging 20 points a game, winning Offensive Player of the Year for the region. It was a struggle, pretty much, for the team. Neither team could really shoot over 30%, so that was the big standout. They both struggled, but basically what happened, about a minute 30 left in the game, Quavion Hill hits a baseline jumper. That gives them the lead, and their first lead of the entire game. That gives them the momentum. They go out. Subsequently, 44 seconds left, Elias Williams fouls out of the game, and then Jarvis Wright had a great look at it with about 30 seconds left to tie the game, but unfortunately couldn't convert. And then Wilkinson County Hill would be fouled. He would hit the free throws, basically sealing the game for them. And Hill left with a game-high 12 points. It was named player of the game. Now, there was a head-scratching play, as Craig alluded to, at the end of the game. Just, I don't know what they were doing, trying to force a foul deep in the backcourt. All they had to do was, if they weren't going to be on that side of the court, just pass the ball into the interior, get the bucket, get the foul. It's tough to make free throws, especially with pressure on the line. Then, worst case, if they miss one or they miss both, you can get it and get probably a better shot with about 2 seconds to go instead of calling that in the game. So the end of the game was pretty much, I don't understand the point of it. It didn't make any sense to me from either team. But nonetheless, Wilkinson County gets their win, 11th, very storied program. But I will say the biggest thing that stood out to me is do not sleep on Charlton County going forward. They have a lot of young players in that group. Obviously, Jalen King is going to graduate, but you're going to bring back a real force. I mean, Jarvis Wright, again, is only a sophomore. He'll be a junior next year. They got this championship experience now, so now they'll be able to take that into next season because they know how to do it. They know how to get it done, and they led throughout the entire game. They really did. It came down to Ellis Williams fouling out. It came down to those turnovers at the end and things like that of that nature, and not being able to convert shots. That was really the difference in the game. So they're going to have him back, and then Ellis Williams and some of that young talent. They'll be back with David Bailey as the head coach. A great run. they'll be back in the state title. So don't sleep on them. And then the other game, Clinch County versus Lake Oconee. That was a 45-42 victory for Clinch County. They won their first state title in 30 years with a 45-42 victory. Big standout in that one. It was a tied game, close, tight-knit, 20-20. The Titans went on a 10-2 run in the third quarter, really broke the game open. They held a 6-point lead going into the fourth, but Clinch County was able to outscore Lake Oconee 15-6 in the fourth. They held a 1-point lead with less than a minute left. Amion Grady, she drove to the lane. She hit her jumper. That put them up to 3. And then Grady ended up finishing the game with 11 points in that, and that would actually be the final bucket of the game by Grady. And then I got to talk about junior Tiana Dorsey. She was huge. They had no answer for her on the rebound. She nearly had a 20-20 game, so that's 20 points, 20 rebounds. She had 19 points and 20 rebounds. The Titans really had no answer for her. And it came down to the end. They just couldn't hit a shot late for Lake Oconee, and they missed some key critical free throws late in the game. That would be the deciding factor for the defending state champions, who are knocked off by Clinch County. So shout out to them. And then the Griffin-Baldwin game. Me and Craig talked about this game a lot. That was probably the most interesting one of the night. I mean, Baldwin just had the size. They had 3 girls in Janae Walker, Neil, that could just go at you. They had really no answers for it. They gave them problems all night long. But the key thing was they missed 10 free throw shots. Again, they missed 10 of their free throw shots. And they had 22 total turnovers. All that is going to make a difference in the game, especially when it's close-knit and it's like that. But that was a deciding factor. But you got to give credit to Griffin hitting those shots late when the game and the pressure was on the line. I mean, they trailed 47-43 late in that game. They basically went on an 8-0 run at the end. Zamaya Hosley, she hits a clutch shot, cut it to 1 point, less than a minute left. And then Leah Turner. Leah Turner just stepped up. She was held scoreless in the first half. She scored 17 points in the second. She hit another clutch 3 to give them the advantage late in the game. And then on the subsequent possession, or the ensuing possession, she forces the turnover, gets the steal, makes the heads-up play, throws it off of the defender, and then it's going to be going into Griffin's. It ended up being Griffin's ball, and then they're up. Then she goes to the free throw line, ice in her veins, nails the 2, puts them up 4. That's pretty much all she wrote. So Walker and Cassidy Neal for Baldwin, they combined for 33 points. Walker had a phenomenal game, 21 points and 19 rebounds, nearly a 20-20 double-double for her. But that's the biggest thing. She's going to be good. She's going to have a lot of deal with offense. She is the the mom's daughter for Kizzy Walker. That is her daughter. So I just think she'll have a lot she can work on in the offseason. She is great in the paint, great at finishing around the basket. It'll just be knocking down those free throws. She wasn't in foul trouble, so she did a good job there. They didn't have an answer, really. Griffin did. They were doubling, triple-teaming her. But I think the next stage of her game where she can take off and take that next step will be playmaking, getting easier shots. If you're double and triple team, getting it out to the open man, having them hit down those shots, open corner shots, that'll be the next level of her game. And obviously being able to hit those free throws and being more of kind of a menace in the paint. So almost to a point where, okay, we're going to run this double, triple team. I can still score, or I can make the pass, and I get my teammates involved. That'll be the next stage of her game, making her teammates around her better. Once she's able to do that, I think she's going to unlock a lot of her potential. She's already great. She's only a sophomore. She posted pretty much a 20-20 double-double game. But she wants to take the next step in her game, it'll obviously be that. But shout out to Leah Turner, senior, being able to do that. And then Aaliyah Durham, I didn't mention her. She scored 20-plus points in this game. When they were struggling early, can't get buckets. When Turner was scoreless, she's carried the scoring load. She kept them in the game. She kept them competitive. So I wanted to shout her out. Great play by her. She was one of the reasons why late they had a chance in order to win. Obviously, Hosley and obviously Turner hit the shots to give them pretty much the win, but she kept them in the game when they were struggling offensively, when they had no answers for the ball, when Biggs in that group. So shout out to her. Phenomenal game. I mean, I really enjoyed it. And then the last one, obviously, Pace Academy and Fayette County. That was such an exciting game. Well, sorry, the Williams before were exciting, but that was such a great win, I should say, for the Pace Academy program. They play in a tough region. For them to win it all, and as Coach Sharman White said in his interview, I think we were a year early. But it's like he said, you have to capitalize because you never know. A team can get better, a team can get different transfers coming in, and just so many different things and elements can go on. You got injuries. It's hard to win a title on any level, high school, college, collegiately, professionally, it's hard to win a title. So when you have the chance and you have the chance to strike, you got to do it. And they did it. And this team is going to have, again, that state championship experience. And they're going to be able to take that into next season and knowing, okay, we know how to get the job done. We've done it. We got all these great players come back. You got Eric Chatfield. He's going to be a junior next season, I believe. You got Kyle Green. He'll be a senior next season. You got one of their better players, L.J. Moore, who stepped up really big in this game. He had 23 points and 7 rebounds, right? He's going to come back again next year. So you got a bunch of young guys that are got all this wealth of experience that are going to come back to your team next season. But I mean, the big things in this game, it was the out rebounded Fayette County 41-19. I mean, that wasn't even close. I mean, that was like night and day. And then they led, get this, guys, 39-32 at half. It was a really close game. It was 32-32 at one point. They used an 8-0 run in the third quarter, pushed the lead to double digits. And then they just led throughout the rest of the game. Fayette County could never really cut it close. I mean, they cut it to 12 a couple times, but, you know, they could never get close enough. But, you know, I just want to shout out Coach Sharman White. Is going to be in one of my top 10 headlines going into the weekend. I mean, he's a legendary coach. I mean, we got to go ahead and say that. I mean, what he's doing, what he's done, it's legendary. He went to Miller Grove. He won. He was the USA men's basketball team, I think, for 16U. He won, right? He comes to this Pace Academy team. He's won 3 state titles in 5 years, right? So you can't discredit what he's done. What he's done is phenomenal. What he's done is incredible. He has the same amount of rings as I have fingers, literally, same amount. So what he's done with that program is phenomenal. He's turning them into a perennial contender. And again, a tough region with Lovett, who was the number 1 seed. They did not come in with the number 1 seed. They ended up losing to Lovett, a guy that they had. Gosh, Craig, remind me of his name. Is he going to Michigan? Huh? Christian Anderson going to Michigan. I couldn't think of his name for whatever reason, but they had to deal with that. You know, then they had to deal with McDonough's team. You know, they had all that talent coming back. You know, obviously they got banged up towards the end, but you got Davion Thomas, right? You got Avante Nichols, seniors, Ahmad McDowell, senior, Keenan Gray, all that talent coming back, and they were still able to make this run. So just want to give them a big shout out. And like I said, he picked up his 499th career win, one short of 500, but I mean, he's a legendary coach. I mean, that got to be said. So, I mean, it's a team at 4A. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they're right back there contending again next year. Obviously, we'll see what happens with the other teams out there. We'll see what happens with McDonough, if they're going to be another top team again going into next season. Obviously, love it. They're graduating some seniors this season, so it'll be interesting to see what steps forward that region will be able to take, and obviously in 4A. But I thought it was a wire-to-wire victory for the most part for Pace Academy. Once they had that lead and took that 8-0 run, that's pretty much all she wrote. So that's my thoughts on the action for essentially the basketball. Obviously, day 2 is today. We got another game coming up at 3. I'm going to be wrapping up the results from the first one. Mount Perrin gets a huge win, double-digit win against Banks County. Really wasn't a match. They was up, even with Jessica Fields, who is the sister of Justin Fields, the NFL quarterback. Even with her dealing with foul trouble, they had Alexander step up real big, and she scored 20-plus points, 25-plus points. So, I mean, it was all she wrote. They really had no answers. So, that's what I got as far as the basketball. We're going to take a quick short break, thank our sponsor, Georgia Farm Bureau, and then we're going to see you guys on the other side for the Top 10 Headline segment and close out the show.
Our mission has always been to support Georgia farmers. That's why we created Georgia Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, providing financial protection that farmers needed. While this remains the same today, we've grown to protect all Georgians through home, auto, and life insurance. From the very beginning and into the future, we stand for every Georgia community.
We are a Farm Bureau.
All right, my favorite segment of the show, always my top 10 headlines going into the weekend. This is so much fun. Love putting together this list every single show. So let's go ahead and get into it. Number 1 top headline is, will Kell sweep the boys and girls championships, right? So obviously, Kell boys, they got a challenge tonight. They're going to be playing Eagles Landing. Only lost 1 game all season. Really good group. They're here for a reason. Kell has so much talent on that team. Jalen Colson, 3-point specialist, really good with the ball in his hands. Cook, who goes to the lane, dunk on you. We've seen that in the Final Four. Peyton Marshall, 7-footer, going to Auburn commit. They got a lot of talent that can come at you. They're there for a reason. Kell's played a national schedule. So, you know, will they be able to do it? And then can Crystal Henderson have a storybook ending to her high school career? It's the biggest question. She already had her jersey retired. She's revered as one of the top players in the state. I think she has a South Carolina offer. She has her whole future ahead of her. She's a phenomenal player. Can she finish the job in Macon? That's the biggest, I think, storyline going into the weekend. They're going to play, actually, I think, today. So will she be able to finish that storybook into her career? That's a big storyline. We'll see. And then number 2, does Cherokee actually stand a chance against Wheeler? I talked to the head coach. It wasn't anything that he said was cocky or anything. He was a very, confident coach. Told me more about his team. I enjoy learning about his team. They have a great group that buys into the system that he has. They're not selfish. It's not all about me. Togetherness. He put together this plan in June. He knew what he needed to work on from year 1. I mean, to be in a state championship in year 2 with the program, I mean, you're doing something right. And I think he's building a program that can sustain for success for some years to come, despite not maybe having, okay, well, they may not have the talent of a Wheeler. They may not have the talent of a Norcross or a Newton, but they've beaten some of those teams. So I think it's incredible what he's doing, but it's going to be tough, man. It's a tall task. Wheeler has so much talent. It's not just the big 3 that I always mention on the show, the Isaiah Collier, the Aronson Page, and Jelani Hamilton, but they got role players that can come at you too. So they do have a lot of familiarity with them. They played them 3 times. It's going to be the 4th time. So maybe the 4th time is the charm for them. Maybe they'll figure out some different things, but he's already said he's not going to do anything different. He's not going to ask his kids to do anything different. Come in with similar game plan, and we'll see how it turns out for him. But it'll be interesting to see if they can pull off. I think this will probably be one of the biggest upsets, maybe in the last decade. I think if they pull that off and can win that. So we'll see what they have in store. And then number 3, going to lacrosse, a sport I cover with my rankings on AJC.com every Tuesday, and also on ScoreAtlanta.com. Blessed Trinity and North Paulding continue to impress in boys lacrosse. They're both still undefeated, have notable top 10 wins in each classification. So those are 2 teams to watch out for competing for a state title. North Paulding's in 7A, Blessed Trinity's in 6A, but they've really impressed me so far. The number 4, continuing with lacrosse, Stars Mill. They debut in my lacrosse pro after 3 straight top 10 victories in 1 week. I mean, incredible showing. They beat Columbus. They beat Holly Innocents. Teams that are, were playing some of their best lacrosse. They came in and just really shocked and really beat both of these teams pretty good. So, yeah, they are, I think they're number 5 or 6 in my poll. But to go and do that, beat 3 top 10 teams, you're doing something right. So that is my number 4. Number 5, Clinch County. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, they get their first state title win in 30 years. Was certainly not easy. They had to play the defending state champion, Lake Oconee, has a great talented team. But again, Clinch County with Grady, Dorsey, they had a phenomenal showing, I think, and they did the right plays at the end in order to win. So got to shout them out. And then Wilkinson County, number 6, they go 11-0 in state championship games. I mean, that's incredible. I did have Charlton County with the upset. I just thought Williams was going to be a little bit too much, which he still was. It was just the foul trouble that hurt him. And then I don't think they got enough from the guard position in this game. Their guard position has been phenomenal all season. Jarvis Wright, Jalen King. I just don't think they got enough in the state championship game from that group. There's multiple points in the game. They had 5, 6, 7-point leads. They could have really put the clamp down. They could have really put their foot on their neck for Wilkinson County, but they just couldn't do it, and they just kept hanging around. And then at the end, they were to make that run late. That shot by Hill was the deciding factor that put them up, gave them momentum they needed, and then Williams subsequently fouls out. That was all she wrote. So shout out to Wilkinson County for getting that win, 11-0, phenomenal team and a very storybook program. And then number 6, I'm going to pull this up so you guys can see it. It's quarterback for Cambridge, Preston Clemmer. He ran a PR in track. Phenomenal time, I think. Running track in the spring. Why I brought this up, guys, Cambridge, again, as a program I've said, they're going to be in the same region as Kell. I think Kell is going to take that next step next year. I see them running the region. I see Kell contending in the high ranks for a state title next season. But how good this team is going to be, and I'm not putting it all on one person's shoulders because that's not how it is. It's a team game. But I think some of their success this season is going to be, or at least offensively, is going to be what step forward can Preston Clemmer take, right? He's not going to have Will Taylor next year. He's not going to have Christian Isabor, right? He's going to have new kids coming in, new group coming in that he's going to have to depend on in the senior season. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what step he takes forward. But again, I think this is a welcoming sign to see him running track, getting prepared, staying fit. This is going to be very important, I think, for them and for himself as far as just, keeping plays going, extending plays, it's important to run track to stay fit for the football season coming up in the fall. So I think this is great. Shout out to him for setting a new PR, and I think it's going to be important for him to continue to stay conditioned, obviously. And I think, again, it'll be interesting to see what step forward he can take next year. So that is number 7. Number 8, legendary coach, as I just mentioned, Sharman White wins his 10th title and picked up his 499th win. Again, for you to have 10 rings, I mean, and not to be called legendary, I don't know what we're talking about there. But you see it in the NFL, you see it in a bunch of different different levels of sports, professional, collegiately. These guys are revered as legends, and that's what we got to start calling Sharman White as, a legendary coach. That is what he is. You've only seen this NFL, I believe. I'm trying to remember some names. Brady obviously was winning 7. Phil Jackson, that's the name I'm thinking of. Phil Jackson winning 10 plus as a head coach. This phenomenal. So definitely want to give him credit where credit is due for Sharman White, legendary coach. He's going to should be in the Hall of Fame, I think, one day in high school. He's done a phenomenal thing as far as his group winning 3 of the last 5 state titles. All right, the number 9, Alexander. Will they be able to win their first state title in school history? They're going to be playing Friday night. They're going to be playing. Hold on. Make sure I get the opponent right. They're going to be playing against Lee County. Lee County had a great run. They were unranked all season long. This is a group that is very gritty. Had a game winner to kind of stamp their ticket into state championship. But Alexander's been revealed as the number 1 team all year long. So it'll be interesting to see, Marvin McGee, right? Braden Liu. Those are some of their top players. Can they pull it together? Got 3 players that score in double figures, right? So Jaquan Nelson, does Lee County have the answers for that tandem? Can they slow them down? Can they make it tough for them? This is their first state title appearance in 38 years. So it'll be interesting to see. That's going to be Friday night at 7:30. I think it'll be a great game. My money is on Alexander, but I can't wait to see who comes out of that one. And number 10, in the headlines and the show for today, North Paulding versus Hillgrove. Certainly a game to watch out in 7A lacrosse. North Paulding is 7-0, and Hillgrove is 5-2 this season. Tony Coviello for Hillgrove is 5th in the state with a total amount of goals at 24. Certainly a name to watch in this one. Very, very good. So we'll see what happens there. But that is one of the top headlines going into the weekend. North Paulding versus Hillgrove, 7-0 versus 5-2. So make sure you guys go to scoreatl.com and the AJC. All of our action from basically state championships, all the results, the recaps, the interviews, the quotes, all of that will be available there. Again, some big games coming up tonight. Kell versus Warner Robins on the girls' side. Kell versus Eagles Landing on the boys' side. And more action coming up. 2A boys as well. So stay tuned for that. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I will see you on the other side next week for another show of Sports Talk with Najeh. This show will be available on YouTube, on our Twitch handle, on NFHS. If you want to go wherever you get your podcast, definitely go tune in. Go to squaretl.com for all the info. And tune into Craig's show tomorrow. I won't be here tomorrow, but tune into his show. I'm sure he will have a jam-packed session getting into state championships. I'm sure he will make some predictions for the weekend as well. So stay tuned for that. I'll see you guys next week, and have a phenomenal weekend, and happy Friday Eve to all. Peace.